The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest building in the known galaxy. It stood at the center of the capital world, a planet that had no other name because it needed none. Every species in the Galactic Empire knew this place. Every leader, every diplomat, every scholar had walked through its massive doors at least once in their lives. Today, the hall was full. Over 3,000 delegates sat in their designated sections, arranged in a great circle that rose up toward a domed ceiling made of living crystal. The crystal changed colors based on the mood of the room. Right now, it glowed a soft blue, the color of routine business and mild boredom. High Regent Vorn sat at the center of the highest platform. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His gray skin was covered in the traditional markings of his office, and his 4 eyes watched the proceedings with the patience of someone who had seen 10,000 meetings just like this one. Ambassador Thala sat to his right. She was from the Elvani, a species known for their wisdom and their ability to sense emotions. Her long silver hair fell past her shoulders, and her pale eyes moved across the crowd, reading the feelings of everyone present. The meeting had been going on for 3 hours. Trade agreements, border disputes, resource sharing, the same topics that filled every summit. The delegates were tired. Some were barely paying attention. Then the human asked to speak. Una Park stood up from Earth's small section near the back of the hall. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Empire 5 years ago, and they were still considered a junior species. Their section was small. Their voice in the council was limited. Most of the other species barely noticed them, but when Una raised her hand and requested emergency time, something in her voice made people stop talking. High Regent Vorn looked down at her with mild curiosity. Emergency requests were rare. They were usually made by species facing natural disasters or economic collapse. What could the humans possibly have to say that required such urgency? The council recognizes the delegate from Earth, Vorn said. You may speak. Una walked down to the speaker's platform at the center of the hall. She was not tall. She was not physically impressive. By the standards of most galactic species, humans were small, fragile, and unremarkable. They had no natural weapons, no thick skin, no psychic abilities. They were, in the eyes of many, one of the weakest species ever to achieve space travel. Una stood at the platform and looked up at the thousands of faces watching her. The crystal ceiling had shifted to a curious yellow. Esteemed members of the council, she began. Her voice was calm and clear. I bring news that cannot wait. 3 days ago, our monitoring stations detected a presence we had hoped never to see again. She paused. The hall was silent. They have invaded, Una said. Ambassador Thala leaned forward. Her emotional senses were picking up something strange from the human. Not fear. Not panic. Something colder. Something controlled. Who has invaded? Vorn asked. What species threatens your world? Una took a breath. When she spoke the next word, her voice did not shake. The hollow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal ceiling turned blood red. Screams filled the hall. Delegates jumped from their seats. Some ran for the exits. Others collapsed where they stood, their bodies shutting down from pure terror. The Elvani delegate next to Thala fainted. A group of insectoid beings from the outer rim began making high-pitched sounds of distress. High Regent Vorn gripped the arms of his chair. His 4 eyes were wide. His gray skin had turned pale. That is impossible, he said, his voice cracked. The Hollow are extinct. They have been gone for 12,000 years. They have returned, Una said simply. Commander Reln, the military chief of the Empire's fleet, pushed his way to the front. He was a massive creature, covered in thick scales and natural armor. He had fought in dozens of wars. He had never known fear. Now his hands were shaking. Which system? He demanded. Which world have they taken? We must begin evacuation protocols immediately. We must calculate how long we have before they spread. Okay, they have not taken a system, Una said. Then where? Reln shouted. Where did they land? Una met his eyes. Earth. The hall went silent again. This time, the silence was different. It was the silence of people who had already accepted death. Ambassador Thala finally spoke. Her voice was soft with grief. Then your species is lost. We are sorry. The hollow cannot be stopped. They cannot be fought. Your people will be consumed within days. Other delegates nodded. Some were already composing messages of condolence. The humans had only been part of the Empire for 5 years, but they had been pleasant enough. It was sad to lose them. Commander Reln was already pulling up star charts, calculating how far the hollow could spread from Earth's location. The news was bad. Earth was close to several major trade routes. If the hollow used human ships to travel, they could reach the core worlds within a year. We need to quarantine the entire sector, Reln said. Destroy any ship that tries to leave Earth's system. It is the only way to slow them down. Yuna watched all of this with a strange expression on her face. She did not look like someone whose planet had just been invaded by the most terrifying force in galactic history. She looked almost patient. If I may continue, she said. No one was listening. The delegates were too busy panicking. Reln was giving orders to his officers. Vorn was calling for emergency protocols. Yuna raised her voice slightly. I said they have invaded. I did not say they succeeded. I said they succeeded. The words cut through the chaos like a blade. Vorn stopped mid-sentence. Reln froze. Thala turned to stare at the human with confusion in her pale eyes. What did you say? Vorn asked. Yuna stood calmly at the center of the platform. The red light from the crystal ceiling made her look like she was standing in fire. The hollow invaded Earth 6 days ago, she said. 3 hive ships. Approximately 40,000 individual organisms. They landed in remote areas on 3 different continents. She paused. They are all dead now. No one moved. No one spoke. The words did not make sense. They could not make sense. The hollow did not die. The hollow consumed. That was what they did. That was all they had ever done. You are mistaken, Thala said slowly. Perhaps you encountered a different species. The hollow cannot be killed. Not by any known weapon. Not by any known force. I am not mistaken, Yuna said. We have confirmed their identity through genetic analysis. They match the records in your own archives perfectly. They were the hollow. She looked around the hall at the thousands of terrified faces. And we killed them all. The crystal ceiling flickered. It did not know what color to show. Fear and confusion and disbelief mixed together until the light became a strange gray. High Regent Vorn leaned forward. His voice was barely a whisper. How? Yuna smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. Perhaps, she said, it is time we told you the truth about humanity. The chaos in the Grand Assembly Hall took almost an hour to control. Delegates had to be calmed. Medical teams had to treat those who had fainted. Security officers had to stop several panicked beings from trying to steal ships and flee the capital world. Through it all, Yuna Park stood quietly at the speaker's platform. She did not move. She did not show any emotion. She simply waited. High Regent Vorn finally restored order. He was still pale, still shaken, but he was the leader of the Galactic Empire. He had a duty to perform. We will hear the humans' full report, he announced. But first, we must ensure everyone understands what we are dealing with. Scholar Mecha, please come forward. An old creature made her way down from the upper levels of the hall. Mecha was the keeper of galactic historical archives. She was small and bent with age, her body covered in worn brown fur, but her mind was sharp. She carried 12,000 years of galactic history in her memory. Mecha took her place next to a large holographic projector. With a wave of her wrinkled hand, she activated it. Images began to float in the air above the assembly. For those who do not know, Mecha said, her voice thin but clear, I will explain what the hollow are. The first image showed a creature that looked like it was made of shadow. It had no clear shape, no eyes, no mouth. It was simply darkness in a vaguely organic form. The hollow are not a species in the normal sense, Mecha explained. They are a hive mind. A single consciousness spread across millions of bodies. They do not eat food. They do not drink water. They consume minds. The image changed. Now it showed the creature wrapping itself around a helpless alien being. The alien screamed silently as the darkness entered through its eyes, its ears, its mouth. When the hollow take a host, they consume the neural tissue, the brain, the nervous system, everything that makes a being who they are. The host does not die immediately. Instead, they become part of the hollow. Their body walks, their mouth speaks, but the person inside is gone. Several delegates made sounds of distress. Even after all these years, the images were horrifying. The hollow spread through contact, Mecca continued. One infected host can create dozens more within days. A single ship landing on a populated world can consume the entire planet within a month. She waved her hand again. New images appeared. These showed great cities burning. Entire worlds covered in darkness. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years reduced to nothing. 12,000 years ago, the hollow appeared in the galaxy. We do not know where they came from. Some believe they evolved naturally. Others believe they were created as a weapon. It does not matter. What matters is what they did. Mecca's voice grew heavy with old grief. They destroyed the Velthari Dominion. 600 billion lives, gone in less than a year. An image showed a beautiful world with golden cities. Then it showed the same world, dark and dead. They consumed the Oreni Republic, the Makan Collective, the United Worlds of Thenor, 17 great civilizations, trillions upon trillions of lives, all taken by the hollow. The hall was completely silent. Many of the younger delegates had never seen these images. They had grown up believing the hollow were just a scary story, a myth, a warning about the dangers of the universe. Now they understood the truth. Our ancestors fought them, Mecca said. Every species in the galaxy united against a common enemy. We built weapons we had never imagined. We sacrificed worlds to slow their advance. We did everything we could. She paused. It was not enough. The hollow could not be stopped. For every one we killed, 10 more appeared. Our greatest warriors fell. Our smartest scientists failed. We were losing. High Regent Vorn spoke up. His voice was quiet. Then why are we still here? How did we survive? Mecca shook her head slowly. We do not know. 12,000 years ago, the hollow simply stopped. Their attacks ended. Their ships went dark. They vanished from the galaxy as suddenly as they had appeared. Where did they go? Commander Reln asked. We never knew, Mecca said. We searched for centuries. We found nothing. Eventually, we decided they must have died out. Perhaps they consumed too much. Perhaps they turned on each other. We did not know, and we did not care. We were just grateful they were gone. She turned off the holographic display. The images faded away. In 12,000 years, no one has seen the hollow. No one has found any trace of them. We began to believe they were truly extinct. She looked at Yuna. Until now, the hall was silent. Every eye turned to the human standing at the speaker's platform. High Regent Vorn spoke carefully. You claim the hollow invaded your world. You claim you killed them all. Scholar Mecca has just explained that this is impossible. The hollow cannot be killed by any known means. How do you explain this? Yuna did not answer immediately. Instead, she turned to the entrance of the hall and raised her hand. A human woman walked in. She was older than Yuna, with gray in her dark hair and lines on her face. She carried a data pad and moved with the careful steps of someone who spent most of her time reading old books. This is Hana Lee, Yuna said. She is Earth's leading military historian. She has spent her entire life studying our species' past. She knows things about humanity that even most humans have forgotten. Hana took her place next to Yuna. She looked up at the thousands of alien faces watching her. Unlike Yuna, she seemed nervous. But when she spoke, Her voice was steady. "Scholar Mecha," Hana said. "You said the Hollow vanished 12,000 years ago. Do you know where they went?" Mecha shook her head. "As I said, we searched but never found them." Hana nodded. "That is because you were looking in the wrong place. The Hollow did not die out. They did not turn on each other. They found a new target." She pulled up a holographic display of her own. It showed a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy, a planet that most species had never heard of until 5 years ago. They found Earth. The reaction was immediate. Confused murmurs filled the hall. Ambassador Thela frowned. "Earth?" she said. "But 12,000 years ago, your species was primitive. You had not even discovered metal tools. You were living in caves." "Yes," Hana said simply. "Then how could you possibly have survived? The Hollow destroyed civilizations with armies and warships. Your ancestors had nothing." Hana smiled. It was the same strange smile Yuna had shown earlier. "That," she said, "is exactly what the Hollow thought." She changed the holographic display. Now it showed images from Earth's ancient past. Cave paintings, stone weapons, small groups of humans huddled around fires in the darkness. 12,000 years ago, the Hollow came to Earth expecting an easy meal. They found a small population of primitive beings with no technology and no defenses. They thought it would take days to consume the entire planet. She paused. They were wrong. Commander Relm leaned forward. "What happened?" Hana looked at him with something like pride in her eyes. "Our ancestors happened," she said. "You see, Commander, the Galactic Empire has always seen humans as weak, small, fragile, and compared to most species, we have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons." She straightened her shoulders. "But we have something else, something the Hollow had never encountered before, something that made us different from every other species they had ever faced." "What?" High Regent Vorn asked. Hana's voice was quiet but clear. "We do not stop fighting, ever, for any reason, until we win or until we are all dead." She looked around the silent hall. The Hollow invaded Earth, expecting prey. Instead, they found the most stubborn, aggressive, and relentless species in the galaxy. And it cost them everything. Hana Lee changed the holographic display again. The images now showed Earth 12,000 years ago. Dense forests, frozen mountains, wide plains filled with dangerous animals, and scattered across the land, small groups of humans living in caves and simple shelters. When the Hollow arrived on Earth, they found approximately 5 million humans spread across the planet. Hana explained. "We were not united. We had no governments, no armies. We lived in small tribes, hunting animals, and gathering plants to survive." She showed an image of a Hollow ship landing in a forest. Dark shapes poured out of it, spreading into the trees. The Hollow did what they always did. They found isolated humans. They consumed their minds. They turned them into hosts. Then they sent those hosts back to their tribes to infect others. Ambassador Thela shook her head sadly. "The same pattern they used everywhere. Find the weak. Turn them. Spread. Same spread." "Yes," Hana agreed. "And at first, it worked. Entire tribes were consumed. The Hollow spread across 3 continents within the first month. They believed victory was certain." She paused. Then something strange happened, something that had never happened before in all the worlds the Hollow had consumed. "What?" High Regent Vorn asked. Hana's eyes were hard. The humans started fighting back. She changed the display. Now it showed cave paintings made by ancient humans. But these were not pictures of animals or hunts. These showed dark figures being attacked, being burned, being torn apart. Other species the Hollow had invaded always reacted the same way. Hana said, "Fear, panic, flight. They tried to run. They tried to hide. They tried to negotiate. None of it worked. But it was the natural response." She looked around the hall. Humans did not respond naturally. When our ancestors saw their friends and family consumed by the Hollow, When they saw the people they loved turned into monsters, they did not run. They did not hide. Her voice dropped low. They got angry. Commander Reln frowned. Anger is not a weapon. The Hollow cannot be hurt by emotion. No, Hana agreed. But anger made our ancestors do something no other species had done. They studied the Hollow. They watched them. They learned their patterns. And then they started hunting them. The holographic display changed again. It showed ancient humans in a forest at night. They were covered in mud and leaves to hide their scent. They carried stone axes and wooden spears tipped with fire. Our ancestors discovered that the Hollow hated fire. Their bodies burned easily. So humans built torches. They built bonfires. They learned to use fire as a weapon. Another image. Humans digging deep pits and covering them with branches. They discovered that the Hollow could not fly. So they built traps. Pits filled with sharpened stakes and burning oil. Another image. A human standing over a fallen Hollow, stone axe raised. They discovered that the Hollow, despite their terrible power, had bodies that could be destroyed. So they hunted them. One by one. Day after day. Month after month. Scholar Mecha interrupted. This is impossible. The Hollow infect through contact. How could primitive humans get close enough to kill them without being infected themselves? Hana nodded. That was the hardest problem. And our ancestors solved it in a way that was very human. Hana nodded Monthly liver. Hana nodded Monthly livered minx. Hana nodded by dot. Hana nodded by dot. She pulled up new images. These showed humans wearing strange masks made of bone and leather. They showed humans covered in thick clothing, made from animal skins. They showed humans carrying long poles with burning ends. They developed protective clothing. Basic, yes. Primitive, yes. But effective enough to give them a chance to fight before being infected. And when someone was infected, Hana's voice grew quiet. The other humans killed them immediately. Before the Hollow could spread. Before the infected person could hurt anyone else. The hall was silent. Ambassador Thala's face showed horror. They killed their own people? Yes, Hana said simply. Our ancestors made a choice that no other species had been willing to make. They decided that some things were more important than individual lives. Protecting the tribe, stopping the enemy. These mattered more than personal survival. She showed another cave painting. This one depicted a human attacking another human who was surrounded by darkness. We have found thousands of these images in caves across Earth. Our ancestors recorded everything. They wrote down which behaviors meant someone was infected. They wrote down how to identify hollow nests. They wrote down the best ways to burn them. Hana looked at the assembled delegates. They created the first weapons specifically designed to fight the Hollow. Stone axes that could crush a host's skull. Spears long enough to attack from a safe distance. Torches that burned hot enough to destroy hollow tissue. But they were still primitive, Commander Reln said. The Hollow had defeated advanced civilizations. How could Stone Age humans succeed where spacefaring species failed? Hana smiled grimly. Because our ancestors had something those civilizations did not have. Time. She changed the display. A timeline appeared, stretching across thousands of years. The Hollow expected Earth to fall within weeks. Instead, the war lasted for centuries. Every time the Hollow thought they had won, more humans appeared. Every time they destroyed a tribe, 2 more rose up to fight. Every time they adapted, humans adapted faster. She pointed to the timeline. Our ancestors did not try to win quickly. They could not. So they settled in for a long war. Generations of humans were born, lived their entire lives fighting the Hollow, and died. Their children continued the fight. And their children after them. Centuries? Vorn said in disbelief. The Hollow fought a war on one primitive planet for centuries? They had no choice, Hana said. They could not leave. Their ships had been damaged during landing. By the time they realized they were losing, they could not escape. She showed images of ancient humans attacking a Hollow ship. They carried torches and primitive bombs made from animal bladders filled with burning oil. Our ancestors found the ships. They did not understand the technology, but they understood that if they destroyed them, the Hollow could not call for help. So, they burned them. The display changed one final time. It showed a world map of ancient Earth. Red dots covered 3 continents, representing Hollow presence. Then the dots began to disappear. Slowly at first, then faster and faster, until finally, there were none left. The war lasted approximately 800 years, Hannah said. 800 years of constant fighting. Millions of humans died. Entire generations were lost. But in the end, we won. She turned off the display. The last Hollow on Earth died approximately 11,200 years ago. Our ancestors tracked them down in a cave system in what is now southern Europe. They sealed every entrance except one. Then they filled the caves with fire. The hall was completely silent. Every delegate stared at the small human woman with something like fear in their eyes. After that, Hannah continued, our ancestors did something remarkable. They wrote down everything. Every technique, every weapon, every sign of Hollow presence. They passed this knowledge down through generations. They disguised it as mythology, monster stories, demon hunts, spirit purges. She looked at Scholar Mecca. Your people forgot about the Hollow because you wanted to forget. You wanted to believe they were gone forever. But humans, we remembered. We always remember our enemies. Because we know they might come back. High Regent Vorn spoke slowly. And 3 days ago, they did come back. Una stepped forward. Yes, High Regent. They came back. And they found that we were ready. Una Park walked to the holographic projector and entered a series of codes. The display changed to show a secure military channel. Static filled the air for a moment. Then a face appeared. Admiral Taeho Kim looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his uniform showed signs of recent combat. Behind him, the command center of Earth's defense fleet hummed with activity. Officers moved between stations. Tactical displays showed information in rapid streams. High Regent Vorn, Taeho said with a brief nod. Council members. I am Admiral Taeho Kim, Commander of Earth's Planetary Defense Forces. I will now provide a complete report on the recent invasion. He pressed several buttons. The holographic display expanded to show Earth from orbit. 3 red markers appeared on the planet's surface. 6 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected 3 objects entering our solar system. They were traveling at sublight speeds and using no active propulsion systems. They appeared to be drifting. Commander Reln frowned. Drifting ships? From where? Unknown, Taeho replied. We believe they have been traveling through empty space for thousands of years. Perhaps they left Earth during the ancient war and have only now returned. Perhaps they came from somewhere else entirely. We may never know. He zoomed in on one of the red markers. The ships entered Earth's atmosphere and landed in remote regions. One in northern Canada, one in central Siberia, one in the mountains of Chile. All 3 locations were isolated. Far from major population centers. Far from easy detection. The standard Hollow strategy. Scholar Mecca said quietly. Land in secret. Spread slowly. By the time anyone notices, it is too late. Too late. Exactly, Taeho agreed. They expected to have weeks or months to establish themselves before we realized what was happening. His expression hardened. They had less than 6 hours. A new face appeared on the display. A young woman with sharp eyes and a serious expression. This is Intelligence Officer Sora Choi, Taeho introduced. She commanded the detection operation. Sora, please explain. Sora nodded. When Earth joined the Galactic Empire 5 years ago, we gained access to your historical archives. We found the records of the Hollow. We compared them to our own ancient texts and realized our ancestors had fought the same enemy. She pulled up data streams on the display. Since that day, we have been preparing. We built a planetary monitoring system designed specifically to detect hollow activity. We placed sensors in every population center. We created AI programs trained to identify the behavioral patterns of infected individuals. We installed genetic scanners at every spaceport, every transportation hub, every border crossing. Ambassador Thela leaned forward. You have been preparing for the Hollow's return for 5 years, but you only just joined the Empire. Why would you spend such resources on an enemy that disappeared 12,000 years ago? Sora's expression did not change. Because humans do not forget our enemies. Ever. She continued her report. When the 3 ships landed, our sensors detected abnormal radiation signatures within minutes. We dispatched reconnaissance drones immediately. By the time the Hollow emerged from their ships, we already knew they were coming. Tejo took over. I activated Protocol Phoenix within 2 hours of landing confirmation. This is a planetary defense plan that has been maintained in secret since Earth's first contact with alien life. It assumes that the Hollow may return and provides a complete response strategy. He showed new images on the display. These showed military units mobilizing, soldiers putting on sealed armor, aircraft taking off from hidden bases. Captain Jinho Beck led the rapid response teams. Jinho, please report. A new face appeared. A man in his 30s with a calm expression and careful eyes. He wore combat armor that was still marked with burns and dark stains. Thank you, Admiral. Jinho's voice was flat and professional. My teams reached the Canadian landing site within 4 hours. We established a complete perimeter using fire barriers and sonic emitters. The Hollow cannot cross fire, and they are disoriented by certain sound frequencies. Our ancestors discovered both weaknesses thousands of years ago. He showed footage from helmet cameras. Soldiers in sealed suits moved through a snowy forest. Ahead of them, dark shapes writhed between the trees. We encountered approximately 15,000 individual hollow organisms at the Canadian site. They had already begun to spread into the surrounding forest. Several had reached a small indigenous community 30 kilometers away. Were there casualties? High Regent Vorn asked. Jinho paused. Yes. 23 civilians were infected before we arrived. We identified them using neural scanners and dealt with them. The meaning was clear. The hall was silent. The remaining Hollow were contained and destroyed using incendiary weapons. We burned the entire landing zone. Then we burned it again. Then we went through the ashes with genetic scanners to make sure nothing survived. He showed similar footage from the other 2 sites. Soldiers fighting in the frozen wastes of Siberia. Teams rappelling down cliffs in the Chilean mountains. Fire everywhere. Explosions. The screams of creatures that were not quite alive and not quite dead. The Siberian site was neutralized within 18 hours. The Chilean site took slightly longer due to the terrain. Total casualties among our forces. 47 dead, 112 injured. All injuries were physical. 0 infections. Commander Reln was staring at the footage with wide eyes. 0 infections? That is, how is that possible? Our armor is designed specifically to prevent hollow contact, Jinho explained. Multiple layers. Sealed joints. Positive pressure systems that push air outward, preventing anything from entering. Our ancestors fought the Hollow with leather masks and animal skins. We fight them with the best technology humanity has ever created. Admiral Tejo reappeared on the display. Total operation time, from first detection to final confirmation. 4 days. Total enemy destroyed. Approximately 40,000 hollow organisms and 3 hive ships. Total human losses. 70 civilian infected and terminated. 47 military killed in action. He looked directly at the camera. The Hollow are dead. All of them. We have swept the landing zones 3 times. We have scanned every human within 500 kilometers of each site. We have checked every animal, every insect, every blade of grass. There is nothing left. High Regent Vorn sat back in his chair. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. He seemed to be having trouble processing what he had just heard. You defeated them, he said quietly. In 4 days. An enemy that destroyed civilizations, and you defeated them in 4 days. Tejo's expression did not change. With respect, High Regent, we had 12,000 years to prepare. Our ancestors gave us everything we needed. We simply had to remember how to use it. But how did you know they would return? Ambassador Thela asked. How could you possibly have known? Tejo paused. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Softer. Almost gentle. We did not know for certain. But humans learn from their past. We study our history not just to understand what happened, but to prepare for what might happen again. The Hollow nearly destroyed us once. We swore, generation after generation, that we would never let it happen again. He straightened in his chair. This briefing is a courtesy to our allies in the Galactic Empire. We wanted you to know that the threat has been contained. You are safe. The Hollow will not spread beyond Earth. We have made certain of it. The transmission ended. The holographic display faded. The Grand Assembly Hall was completely silent. 3,000 delegates sat in stunned disbelief. They had come to this summit expecting routine business. Instead, they had learned that the galaxy's greatest fear had returned and been destroyed in less than a week. By humans, by the small, fragile, unremarkable species that had joined their empire just 5 years ago. Una Park stood alone at the speaker's platform. She looked up at the silent crowd and waited. Finally, High Regent Vorn spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. What are you? Una considered the question carefully before answering. We are survivors, she said simply. Nothing more, nothing less. 3 days passed after Una Park's announcement. The Grand Assembly Hall remained closed while the Council processed what they had learned. Delegates sent messages to their home worlds. Leaders held emergency meetings. Military commanders reviewed their defense plans. Everyone was asking the same questions. How had they been so wrong about humanity? On the 4th day, High Regent Vorn called a special session. The hall was full again, but the atmosphere was completely different. The crystal ceiling glowed a confused mix of colors. No one knew how to feel. Vorn stood at his platform and looked down at the assembled delegates. He seemed older than he had before. The weight of what he had learned showed on his gray face. I have spent the last 3 days reading reports, he began. Reports from our historians, our military analysts, our diplomatic corps. All of them say the same thing. He paused. We made a mistake. A serious mistake. When humanity joined the Galactic Empire 5 years ago, we treated them as a junior species. We gave them limited seats in this assembly. We restricted their trade rights. We denied them access to certain technologies because we believed they were not ready. He shook his head slowly. We thought we were protecting them. We thought we knew better. We were wrong. Commander Reln spoke up. High Regent, I have reviewed Earth's military capabilities in detail. They have been hiding their true strength. Their fleet is twice the size we estimated. Their weapons technology is more advanced than they have shown us. They have defense systems we never knew existed. Why would they hide these things? Ambassador Thela asked. Una Park stood at her small section near the back of the hall. She had been quiet for the past 3 days, waiting for the council to process the information. Now she walked down to the speaker's platform once more. May I answer that question? She asked. Vorn nodded. Please. Una turned to face the assembly. She looked tired. The past week had been difficult for everyone, but especially for her. She had been the one to deliver news that had shaken the galaxy's foundations. We hid our strength because we wanted peace, she said simply. Thela frowned. I do not understand. If you are strong, why would you pretend to be weak? Una thought for a moment before answering. When humans first discovered we were not alone in the universe, we were excited. We wanted to meet other species. We wanted to learn from them. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. She looked around the hall. But we also knew our history. Humans have fought many wars. Against enemies. Against each other. We know what happens when a powerful newcomer enters an existing system. The others become afraid. They form alliances against the newcomer. Conflict follows. She shook her head. We did not want that. We did not join the Galactic Empire to make enemies. We joined because we wanted friends. So we chose to hide our true capabilities. We chose to appear weak and harmless. We thought it would make integration easier. You deceived us, Reln said. His voice was not angry, just stating a fact. Yes, Yuna admitted, and I am sorry for that. But please understand. We did it because we were afraid of what might happen if you knew the truth. What truth? Vorn asked. Yuna met his four eyes directly. The truth that humans are not like other species. The truth that we carry our violent history in our blood. The truth that we have defeated every enemy that has ever tried to destroy us, no matter how powerful they were. She paused. We were afraid you would see us as a threat. And we did not want to be seen that way. We just wanted to be normal. The hall was quiet. Many delegates were looking at the humans with new eyes. Fear mixed with respect. Uncertainty mixed with curiosity. Ambassador Thala stood and walked down to stand near Yuna. She was an Elvani, a species known for sensing emotions. She had been watching the human diplomat throughout the entire crisis. I have been monitoring your emotional state since this began, Thala said quietly. Do you know what I have sensed? Yuna shook her head. Nothing that I expected, Thala said. No pride at defeating a great enemy. No arrogance at proving your strength. Only sadness. Only tiredness. Only a deep desire for all of this to be over. Yuna was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. 70 people died, Ambassador. Civilians who were just living their lives. And 47 soldiers who knew the risks, but went anyway. For humans, that is not a victory. That is a tragedy. Thala studied her for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed her head. I owe you an apology, Thala said. When you first announced the invasion, I assumed your species was lost. I believed you could not survive. I had already written you off as dead. She raised her head. I was wrong. And more than that, I was unfair. I judged your entire species based on appearance. I assumed that because you were small and fragile, you were weak. I have been a diplomat for 200 years. I should have known better. Other delegates began to stand. One by one, they voiced similar apologies. The insectoid beings from the outer rim, the tall silicon-based creatures from the core worlds, even Commander Reln, who had initially been most skeptical. We will not make this mistake again, Reln said. From this day forward, Earth will have full military partnership status. Your officers will be welcome in our command structures. Your strategies will be studied by our academies. High Regent Vorn raised his hand for silence. I propose a formal vote, he announced, to elevate humanity from junior member status to senior member status in the Galactic Empire. Full voting rights, full trade access, full recognition as equals among the great species of the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. Later that evening, after the session had ended and the delegates had dispersed, Ambassador Thala found Yuna standing alone on a balcony overlooking the capital world's sunset. The sky was filled with purple and gold, and distant ships moved between the stars. May I join you? Thala asked. Yuna nodded. The two stood in silence for a while, watching the light fade. I have another question, Thala finally said. One I did not want to ask in front of the council. Go ahead. Why did you never tell us? This history you have with the Hollow. It would have changed everything. You would have been treated with respect from the beginning. Why keep it secret? Yuna considered the question. Would you have believed us? A young species claiming to have defeated the Hollow, with rocks and fire. You would have thought us mad. Or liars. Thala had to admit this was probably true. Yuna continued. We joined your empire seeking peace, Ambassador. We have no desire to frighten anyone, but I think you should understand something about humanity. She turned to look at Thala directly. Her eyes were calm, but hard. The eyes of someone who had seen too much history. We remember every enemy that tried to destroy us. Every war, every battle, every loss, every monster in the dark. Her voice dropped low. And we never stop fighting. Ever. Until we win or until we are all dead. Thala felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. She was looking at a representative of a species that had survived the galaxy's greatest terror as cave dwellers, and had never forgotten the experience. You could have conquered the galaxy, Thala said quietly. With your technology, your strategies, your willingness to do whatever is necessary. Why did you not? Yuna smiled sadly. Because we are tired of war, Ambassador. Humans have been fighting for as long as we can remember. Against nature. Against each other. Against monsters from the stars. We joined the Empire because we hoped we could finally rest. She looked back at the sunset. We do not want to rule anyone. We do not want to conquer anything. We just want to live in peace. To explore the stars. To make friends. To build a future where our children do not have to learn how to fight monsters. Thala was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and placed her hand on Yuna's shoulder. I think, she said slowly, that we could learn a great deal from each other. I think, Yuna smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had shown in days. I would like that, Ambassador. I would like that very much. Far away, in the archives of the Galactic Empire, Scholar Mecha sat alone in her study. The room was dark, except for the glow of her data screen. She was updating the historical records. Under the entry for the hollow, she scrolled to the end. For 12,000 years, the last line had read, Status unknown. Presumed extinct. Mecha deleted those words. In their place, she typed something new. Status, extinct. She paused, then added one more line. Cause of extinction, humanity. She saved the record and leaned back in her chair. For a long moment, she simply sat there, thinking about everything she had learned. Then, despite her age, despite her wisdom, despite all the horrors she had seen in her long life, Scholar Mecha did something she had not done in centuries. She laughed, because the galaxy's greatest monster had been defeated by Stone Age humans with torches and sharp sticks, and somehow, against all logic, against all reason, that was exactly the kind of universe she wanted to live in. Outside her window, the stars shone on. And somewhere among them, on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy, 8 billion humans went about their lives, working, playing, loving, fighting, remembering, always remembering.